This movie begins the second part of our course dealing with CSS properties. We will move through each one of these sections covering how to manipulate specific properties of the different kinds of HTML objects in our documents. In this specific section, we will be looking at the properties used to control the appearance of text in our documents. Essentially, what we are discussing when we talk about such things and how they affect our overall designs, usability, and graphic identities, we are discussing typography. CSS is going to give us a great deal of control over such issues of typography, as we will see throughout the movies in this section. With CSS, we are able to distinguish between our character and paragraph formatting. Now, this is also referred to as inline and block level formatting, and we will be discussing this in this section. First, we will examine how to set preferences for which font we want to end up using on our websites, followed by learning how to colorize, italicize, and make text bold. We follow that up by looking at the different size options that are available with our CSS options. Then look at something called tracking or our spacing, and we'll discuss more about what tracking or spacing is about in an upcoming movie. We look at our options for capitalizing our text, as well as decorating and controlling the vertical space of text. Now, all throughout our different movies, we will be taking a look at how to apply these on our OpenSparks project. Once we get familiar with our different character level formatting options, we turn our attention to our block level formatting. And for our block level formatting, we're going to take a look at how to control our justification and our text indents. By the end of this section, you should feel comfortable enough taking fine control over the aspects of text both inline and block level. And by the end of this part of the course, you should know a great deal about CSS and should be ready to start building your own websites. Throughout this section, we will be using the OpenSparks project. So we need to go ahead and make sure that that project is set up for us for adding our CSS. So what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate the HTML document, add in a link to an external CSS file, and just save it. And that way we're going to be ready for adding in all of the different styles that we need to. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take a look here at our OpenSparks, and here I've already opened it into my browser, and that's the OpenSparks 07 index.html file. And as you can see, it's a plain HTML document without much of anything added to it. In fact, there's no other content other than just text and links and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and open up the HTML here. And the first thing that I want to point out with this document is the first line up here. This is the doc type. Now, the doc type declaration basically declares to the browser that our document is adhering to a specific standard. This is a very important thing to have in almost all of your documents because it's going to let the browser know what kind of code to expect. Now, in some browsers, they actually have a backup rendering engine in place in the event that you do not have a doc type declaration. So if you have a doc type declaration, such browsers will read it and say, oh, this is a standard compliant web page, I'm going to render it as such. And if you don't have it, it's going to say, this is a non-standards compliant web page, I'm going to render it as such. So what it ends up doing is using legacy rendering techniques to take care of what you have set up in your document. Now, of course, this is going to end up messing up a lot of the things that you have carefully set up because our CSS is standards compliant. So it is going to make a good deal of difference whether you include this or not. And in fact, a good bit of those issues you may run into can be avoided just by including this. All right. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead here and add in a link to my CSS document. And then after I set up that link, I will actually create the file. So I'm going to be creating the file in a folder called Styles. And I'll call it main.css. And then I need to set the relationship. And the relationship is this is going to be a style sheet. And the type is text/CSS. And then I'll close that, and there we go. So I'll go ahead and save that. I'll just go to the File menu and hit Save. And then go to my exercise files, open Sparks, 07. And once I'm in there, I'll create a new folder. I'll call it Styles. And then I'll go into Styles and save my file as main.css. I'll hit Save, and there we go. So now we have our CSS page set up, and we have the link between the CSS and the HTML document. So now our OpenSparks project is ready for us to begin.